down. We can do all kinds of stuff here, man.
I feel like you're anti StreamYard more than pro Restream.
More than pro research.
More than
My
pro
new
research.
content's gonna be how do we take down StreamYard? Now, you know what?
Actually,
I found the details. They got bought by a bigger group called Bending Spoons, and
I
that's
heard
where
about
all
that.
that funny stuff started.
Someone else was complaining about the exact same thing. They were
Yeah.
like, I wasn't interested in a business thing, and they pushed me into it.
So it's like when these CTMSs that people love get huge investments from PE or hedge funds, and then it's like they start nickel and diming every. I mean, it happens.
Yeah.
It happened. Shout out to Creo. They're a sponsor. That's not happening with them, but it's happening. It's a potential. All right, Darshan Kulkarni. I mean, the man needs no introduction. I'm reintroducing you to the X crowd. You know, the X crowd loved you, man. You made your appearance discussing the AQST and PDUFAs. We did all about PDUFAs last week. And I think another thing we need to discuss that research site owners all fear, biotech pharma sponsors all fear are 483s.
Yeah.
From like as site owners, we're worried about a 483 for our own site, right? But the pharma need to understand, the sponsors need to understand that if you get a bad site and they have a good amount of the data, meaning even like what, 10%, 5%, it could
That's a lot of
derail
data.
it could derail the whole trial, right? Just
It
from
absolutely will.
one bad site.
So you always have a little bit of buffer. It's not like a site. It's not 5% of critical data. It's 5% of data, and you probably have a a lot of sort of leeway built in. So if a site goes off, if the data goes wrong, you probably have a little bit of wiggle room, but not 10%. That's unusual.
Well, the issues, the scary part, because as someone who dabbles in these biotech investments as well, not financial advice, not legal advice, God forbid medical advice. This would be the last place. I think ChatGPT would be better for you than this for
And don't use
medical.
ChatGPT either, just to be
Yeah,
clear.
sure. Do what you want with it. Yeah, I wouldn't use that one. I don't trust the Sam. But the problem is a lot of these sponsors, like especially the smaller sponsors that maybe are not familiar with doing trials, like they outsource this to CROs, right? And like
The oversight, you mean?
yeah. And so like the perfect example is the Miami issue, even though
Mm-hmm.
that sponsor's somewhat not very reputable, but allegedly. But
Mm-hmm.
it shows you the risks of just completely outsourcing like all your oversight, which you're not supposed to do. But
Mm-hmm.
when you don't know what you're doing, what else are you supposed to do but hire an expert, which is a CRO, to kind of guide the whole process? And if they drop the ball, how do you even prepare yourself as a sponsor, as an investor, and even as a site, like for what studies you accept, what studies you take on? I mean, the last thing anyone wants is a 483. I think a lot of sites don't talk enough about you could be doing everything fine, but if the sponsor sees things they don't like with or if the FDA sees things they don't like with the sponsor, you might get audited just for picking the wrong study to do. So, like, there's a lot here, man. And 483s, you are Baba Yaga, although that was last year. You have a new, what's your new nickname for this year?
We haven't come up with a new nickname yet.
Yeah, I think it was Hard Stop Cool Carney.
I forgot about hard stop.
Wasn't it?
I
Although
think you did.
you don't have a hard stop today, but
No. I learned from the best. I learned that when Safara asks for time, you make time.
well, the people demand answers to these things. Like this is sensitive stuff here, man. So, where do you want to start? You want to start from the sponsor
Well,
perspective, the site, the retail investor? I
well,
mean,
let's start with what are 483s, what is escalation, why it matters, all that good stuff.
yep.
So again, let's go back to what is the role of the FDA. The FDA has literally, if you take it all down, the FDA has only four things they can look at. Everything outside that is outside the FDA's purview. So is your drug, when we're talking about drugs, safe and efficacious? And is it not adulterated and misbranded? If it's both safe and efficacious and it's not adulterated and misbranded, the FDA has no jurisdiction.
Okay, I think most would understand safe and efficacious, but I don't want to assume, so we're going to come back to it.
Yeah.
But adulterated and misbranded are probably concepts we don't talk about enough. I know you talk about it like all the time, but
Yeah.
for Guru Nation, they don't really hear that from me.
Yeah. So the short version of that, safety and efficacy is what you prove by doing all the clinical trials. You're saying, I have this study proof to show that this drug shows this efficacy, but it's effective for people based on this information. And safety is, again, you're not going to have an arm fall off, you're not going to have like liver breakdown, blah blah blah. So that's the testing that goes along with it. Um, Compounded drugs, for example, they don't do any of that testing. They don't look at safety and efficacy. That's just not what they have to do. They are looking at the actual making of the product. So from a adulteration standpoint, is the wrong product introduced? Is there a if I told a if I'm a physician and I told a pharmacist to make a drug, in that scenario, do I did the pharmacist follow exactly the specifications I had? That's what makes something adulterated or not. So people are like, oh, you could have rat feces. Well, no shit, that's adulterated at that point. On the other hand, even if you've got a drug that shouldn't be in there, that's adulterated as well. So anything that shouldn't be in that formulation, if it's in there, is adulterated. Um, and that's where you get a lot of fights. Misbranded, looking at the overall sort of perspective on it, if they're making claims that are not supported by the evidence, with the safety and efficacy evidence that you had, or the adulteration evidence you had, then it renders a product misbranded. So for example, you say Ozempic is being used for. We know that there's data that it can be used for weight loss. Fine. You have evidence that it can be used for diabetes. Fine. It can be used to cure cancer. Wait a second. Prove that to me.
Or they're starting to study addiction and things like that.
But you're starting to study. You don't have evidence to
Right.
prove that.
Right.
And that's the distinction. That's what makes something misbranded. So it may not be misbranded in a few weeks once you have the study results. But at the moment you spoke, was that information misbranded?
But is that more enforced? Like that's where the labeling talks come in, right? Or
That's
is
where the
that
labeling talks come, but it could be off-label as well.
which doctors are allowed to do off-label?
Uh, Prescribe. So they're allowed to talk off-label because
Mhm.
that's a First Amendment right issue. But prescribing off-label was till probably about 6 months ago completely legal, and under the Trump administration, it may not be.
Really?
So
What
that's
are they
the rule that's changing right now. So this
changing?
is like cutting edge stuff. This is like not even most food and drug lawyers understand this stuff. But here's what's happening right now. Um, one of the conversations Dan and I just had around trans stuff. The the idea was that the Trump administration saying we want to see the health information for trans kids. We want to decide whether the doctors are prescribing this off label. So the doctors have theoretically they've always prescribed it off label. That was never the problem. But we're now going to look at that and say, you know what? Are you exceeding the actual label that was given? And we consider that to be either. So we've always considered that to be a safe harbor that may not exist so much anymore. So they're going to go after the drug companies as a regulatory violation. They might have the state attorney generals
Hmm.
target those doctors as malpractice.
So I see. So the idea is not the fact or the act of prescribing off-label; it's the changing the dose from the approved
Exactly. So
label.
that's what off label means.
Right.
Changing it from one indication to the other.
So you're allowed to do that, but not really alter the dose too much because that's
No,
what's
you are. You're allowed to do so. For example, there's a drug called dopamine and dobutamine. They're two different drugs. Or we'll take Megace. There's another one. So Megace is used for like to calm down your stomach. Like you can get it up. 20 milligrams is the dose, typically speaking, twice a day. But instead of 20 milligrams, if I give you 800 milligrams, so that's what, 40 times the dose? That can be used as a in situations that people are dying and they just won't eat food anymore. It's called failure to thrive.
Hmm.
So using that off-label, it's always been the case. Most cancer drugs are used off-label for completely different uses, completely different dosage forms and doses. So it's the fact that we're now targeting an off-label use raises all kinds of weird questions. You take that a few years ago, and this is where I want to say the Trump administration, well, a few years ago, I don't know if you remember, but during COVID, they wanted to use ivermectin for off-label uses.
Of course, I was gonna bring it up.
Right, exactly. And the idea was the FDA came out and said, no, 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 don't use ivermectin for off-label uses. You're not a cow. And the
Right.
courts came out and said, you don't get to make that decision. That's a decision between the doctor and the patient. Who are you to decide whether that's appropriate or inappropriate?
Was the FDA clinging on to the misbranding angle?
Well, they didn't say anything. They didn't stop anyone from doing it
Right.
because they couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're saying we will.
It's interesting.
That's the
So
distinction.
basically, the administration that was very against controlling like off-label doctor-patient autonomy now is
Going the other
ironically
way.
enough controlling it.
They're all flipping sides.
Well, you don't hear about this angle.
Yeah.
Only on Guru Nation, guy.
Only on
Darshan.
Nation. I'm gonna write an article about this, but this is sort of super cutting
Oh,
edge.
really? Please post it on X too. This one is no, seriously.
Okay.
If not, I'm gonna copy and paste it myself, man.
I'll have it for you.
Just don't sue me for like what would that be? Plagiarism?
It's not plagiarism. You can have it if you can.
Okay,
Multiple people can write about it. It's not just my idea.
Not only is Darshan an attorney and a pharmacist, he's a professor.
I.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the 483. So that's an interesting sidebar. We gotta double click on that at some point. That's another podcast by itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But we saw that, for example, even with abortion rights. So we were saying that, doctors in XYZ state can use a drug for an off-label use if it's going to cause an abortion. And states, for example, Texas came out and said, we want to have the list of those patients that you're going to use this drug for an off-label. You there? Can you hear me?
I'm here, yeah. Yeah, we're here, loud and clear.
Oh, good. Okay, so it says on my screen, it says connection lost.
Well, we just lost our Sean. I think we got you back, man. You might be trying to use a lot of cameras or what's going on. That's a great angle.
I'm only using one camera right now.
Okay. Maybe you need to use two.
Probably. So, but anyway, so the point there was, in the case of abortion, they were saying that we want to look at the data. For example, if someone from Texas goes to New York and wants to have an abortion, Texas is saying we want to have those records. We want to know if they're using it for an
so you're doing like medical tourism now in the United States.
The United States. So they actually sued a law firm. I want to say it was King and Spalding. Some of the best lawyers in the world.
Are they your rivals, or you're cool with them?
It's like it's David v. Goliath situation. Like they are.
Who's Goliath? You?
No, King and Spalding definitely is a Goliath in this situation. They're I'm making up numbers here, but their revenue is probably like $4 or $5 billion a year.
Oh, okay. So just like double yours. No,
a little bit, just a little bit. Yeah. I mean, give it a couple more weeks. I'll catch up.
A couple weeks, couple more Guru Nation podcasts.
Exactly.
It'll do the trick.
But no, so they went after King and Spalding because they apparently had lawyers who were doing that. Some situation, and I could be wrong. It may not be King and Spalding.
But like when it comes to that 483s, though, all right.
So the reason all of this matters, is if you have regulatory violations, you will have the first step in a regulatory violation is use. Sorry, my nose is itching and I can't tell why.
Well, first of all, what is a regulatory violation like in this context?
So in this case, violation of the Food, Drugs, and Cosmetics Act. So the way things work is Congress will pass laws. In this case, the Food, Drugs, and Cosmetics Act. The executive branch, whether it's the FDA, HHS, OCR, you name it, U.S. Postal Service, they're all under the executive, so under the president. They will figure out how to how to operate that law. Because the law will say things really broadly, like no adulteration, misbranding. That's great. What the hell does that actually mean?
Yeah,
So
and
the
what does that
FDA will
mean in a
say
very niche like gene therapy context? They're like little
exactly,
nuances, life or death.
exactly.
Mhm.
So, for example, drugs must be safe and efficacious. How do you prove that? You need 2 double-blinded, placebo-controlled, multinational, multi-center studies. That's what the FDA defined. But they could
And
have
then
easily
safe.
said
They could
5
also, it's like safe compared to what? Like compared to
relative
a
risk.
normal person, sure. But if you're dying on your deathbed, you're willing to take
Correct.
risks.
So that's all. So what the executive branch does is it interprets the law to make that make sense. So okay, so that's the executive branch. And then the judiciary obviously interprets whether either the regulation or the law itself is legal in line with the Constitution. Okay, so when you say regulatory violation, you're looking at the interpretation. So you're looking at the executive branch to see if they interpreted that correctly. So they looked at the Food, Drugs, and Cosmetics Act and they said, is 2 double-blinded placebo-controlled trials a good standard? Is that appropriate? Is that within the purview? On the other hand, someone could say, you know what? Having the Food, Drugs, and Cosmetics Act by itself is illegal. And one might, I'm making this up, and I'm not saying this is what it is, but let's say someone said that Congress does not have the authority to pass the Food, Drugs, and Cosmetics Act, or it does not have the authority to judge doctors. That was not what Congress did. So the law itself is being challenged as more of a legal analysis. Does that distinction
And
make sense?
that's where you go to Supreme Court and stuff like that.
Correct. Well, both could go to the Supreme
Yeah,
Court.
okay. Yeah.
Um, but the point I'm making, the reason that matters is 483s are happening at the administrative level, the regulatory level.
Yeah.
If it is a continuing violation, it could become a warning letter. If it's a serious violation, it could become a warning letter.
Right off the bat, a warning.
Right off the bat, you can easily switch directly from, oh, I found a problem, to a warning letter. Usually you'll see something in the middle. Usually you'll see that 483.
So what are
Not
the
always.
options then? Okay, like a company gets audited, whether
Yeah.
they audit their sites or whether they being the
Manufacturing
FDA.
plant. Yeah.
So yeah, so whether they audit a manufacturing plant, which is becoming increasingly more of a
It's always
finding.
been a thing. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah, that's always been a big thing.
This new
No, it's huge.
FDA from what I've been reading is like pretty gung ho on the manufacturing side, especially they want more
They're
things
gung-ho on
here in the
everything.
US.
So advertising, for example, we're at all-time high right now.
As far as
Advertising violations. Yeah.
advertising violations. Same with
Yeah.
CMC deficiencies, like
Exactly.
all-time high. 483 to sites, warning
Yeah.
letter to the research
Yeah.
sites, and the biggest finding on those have been inadequate monitoring lately. Your favorite, the BIMO.
I know. Yeah. In fact, we're gonna have a discussion about this at SOS.
Of course, yeah, you're gonna be on the panel, the last panel of the conference,
Wow.
and you're gonna be the
That's how you know you're
regulatory.
important. No one shows up.
No, I put it there on purpose because it's the best topic in my opinion, and it forces people to stay for the whole thing.
You, me, and like 3 people.
Nah, man,
That's why we're gonna be like spraying money so that people show up.
that was Chris Sauber last year, but I might do that this year. I might actually borrow his gun and do that.
That's awesome. But anyway, so that's what a 483 is.
Okay, now let's break down the different alternatives, possibilities. So FDA wants to do an inspection, whether it's of a manufacturing plant or a research site, right? Can they inspect anything else?
They can inspect the pharmacovigilance. They can inspect your tech, your labs, anything that's FDA regulated.
But as far as like physically go and
I've
inspect,
seen them labs, for example.
wouldn't that just be CMC or not? It's a
No,
different category.
no. For example, I'm thinking about, let's say so there's something called I'm just thinking it's so many things. I'm trying to pick one. So there's something called HCTPs. So human tissue and cells and tissues. In those specific situations, the FDA will go in and say, you're doing these lab tests, let's see how you're evaluating these tests. Are you following the rules that are supposed to be followed?
Mm.
Are these labs actually what are called lab developed tests, in which case they fall under this little exemption? Or it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, so people pretend it's like a little thing. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Hmm.
Um, or is this more of a wellness product? Or is this more of a medical device? Because labs can actually be medical devices. And the FDA can go inspect that. So that starts getting boring, but I don't want to get too much into the weeds there. But FDA can be all over in a bunch of different places.
All right, but let's take the two most commons: the manufacturing facility and the research sites. They're also
Sure.
maybe the most detrimental ones. I'm sure the labs would be too if they found a critical issue at a lab.
Absolutely. You can also do exhibition booths. So you'll have salespeople, you'll have the
Mm.
FDA walking exhibition booths and going, yeah, tell me more about this. And the
But
salesperson tells
that's
them,
post marketing, right?
yeah, that'll be post marketing.
And the FDA can do
Not
that.
always.
They'll do that undercover, or they have to identify themselves as a.
Usually they'll just identify themselves.
And the sales
Um,
rep is too dumb to realize that they're
you know
committing
what?
a crime. Or
Sales rep should really have this under wraps.
shout
But
out
they
to the
won't take
sales
it.
reps
What are you
out
gonna
there.
say no?
Shout out to the sales rep out there. They're awesome. They give us studies, all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, no, they connect us to the MSLs that give us studies.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Huge distinction. Okay, so CMC, manufacturing facility, and the sites. Which one do you want to go to first and like go through maybe the process of 483s as well as the outcomes?
Well, I don't think it matters so much. We can talk about any of them, but
Yeah.
the basic principles stay the same.
Okay, let's go
Let's
principles then.
choose a site or a manufacturing
To
facility.
channel our inner Peter Thiel, let's go with the first principles perspective.
Sure.
I don't
You're,
even know what that means.
I don't actually know what that means in this context. What is the first principle in here?
I don't know. You said principle, so it seems like it applies to everything. It's like a platonic ideal.
That's where that came from. I've been wondering why you've been using platonic ideal for so long.
What's the perfect circle? It doesn't exist, right? Only in our heads.
Why does a perfect circle not exist?
We can't do one perfect, no matter how. Like even with the finest precision, you can't make a perfect
What
circle.
makes it perfect?
It has to be perfectly 360 degrees. It's never
Um,
perfect. If you zoom close, it's like off. So like this is the argument of the
that's the question.
humans.
How close do you have to go before it's perfect?
You can't infinite. So the argument is, do humans discover or do they invent? And if
Okay.
it's discovery, they're discovering some kind of platonic ideal that already existed. That's what it is.
I feel like you just used the word platonic ideal.
No, no, I
I
just
don't
love.
actually know what
I'm
it
in
means
love.
here.
No, no, I'm in love with that concept. It applies to so much, but like 483s does not apply to that.
Okay.
The the stocks the drugs either can get approved or get a CRL, which we talked about last
We
time.
did. We did.
So 483s are more like what kind of messes that process up. I mean, sponsors do studies not because they love research, and they hire sites not because they love being site centric. They could give a shit about sites.
Okay. So why did they do it?
Shout out to SOS, but they do it to get a drug approved.
Okay.
And
Fair
so
enough.
these are the things that throw wrenches in that plan. Like,
So did
oh,
you know
we
you can
didn't see
actually get
that
a
coming.
Did you know you can get a drug approved without ever being the company that uses a site? It's called a paper NDA.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you get data that's existed in the past and you can actually
Oh,
use
like
that.
a historical, like
Yeah.
the things this FDA hates.
Oh, they've used it in the
Natural
past.
history studies, they hate that. Vinay Prasad wrote a book on that from
I
cancer,
haven't read Vinay's book.
from the perspective of cancer, at least. But
Well, I think there's an argument to be made that maybe that works in the case of cancer only because they tend to be very small studies.
no,
On
his
the other hand, if
argument
it's a
was
good
it was
study, it's a good study.
abused. It was abused in cancer studies to cherry pick and pass mediocre drugs with minimal improvements.
Well, the problem is the alternative is no no treatment option. So
Right, but that cost ends up costing society much more for just like another Me Too product.
no,
That's
but
their argument.
you're not
That's his
creating a
argument.
Me Too product unless you're getting approval. I thought in many cases these are not used for approvals.
No, no, I'm talking approval, and so is
Okay.
he. Yeah, but
Okay.
I didn't know about paper NDAs.
Yeah,
But
so I've
yeah,
done that.
How many stocks trade on paper NDAs? Like, I don't
Not
imagine.
too many. There aren't too many of them. But there was something called the DESI process in the
Mm.
1990s. I worked on one in like the 2010s. Essentially,
Yeah, you're old, man.
it's true. Um, but historically, the way it worked is that, and I'll give you a very famous one. When
Okay.
but essentially, the way it worked is first you had to prove that a drug was safe.
Hmm.
And I think in 1972, the Coffar-Harris Amendment, I think, came out and said that you have to prove that they're safe. And they said
Okay.
eventually we'll get to the efficacy as well. And they never did. They just never got to the efficacy question. So there were this group of drugs that existed for a long time that we knew were safe, but we did not know were effective. So in the 1990s, the FDA came out and said, you know what, you're going to, if you come out there and you can prove to me that the drug is effective, we will give you exclusivity. So
And
in
this
the
was
19
before like breakthrough designations, fast track, all these like programs meant to incentivize research
but
in
you
these.
don't have to do any of that research, right? That's a completely different process for a completely
Ah,
different
okay,
problem.
okay, okay.
In this situation, it was more a question of the data exists because we've got there are drugs that have been used for 400 years, 500 years. And we know that that data exists, but we've never actually compiled it into an application that's gotten FDA review.
Okay.
So a really famous one of those, and there were like, um, so I'll get to that in a second. There was a drug called colchicine. It's used for gout. Um, Someone said, you know what? I'm going to prove that colchicine works for gout. Well, no shit, Sherlock. We've been using it for like the last so many hundred years.
Okay.
Like British kings used to get gout.
Yeah, it was the disease of the kings, right?
Yeah. Or the rich.
Hmm.
So, short version, if you went and got that approval, it was great. So people would try to get these approvals together. At one point, someone said, "So can we get a list of all the drugs that are that need these paper NDAs?" FDA says we have no list like that. You guys have to go figure it out and come to us. So there could still be these drugs out there. We just don't know what they are.
Okay. But like, and
Um,
then somewhat related to that, at least in my head, is that 505(b)(2), where you're using an already approved drug, you can piggyback the safety,
yeah,
and then you
sort
just
of.
have to prove like the new efficacy for a new disease or a new delivery system or something
Yeah,
like that, right?
yeah.
Shout out to AQSD. Not a financial advice. Definitely not financial advice. Okay, but these 483s will fuck people over, man. Like,
Why?
they'll come out of left field.
Why?
Well, they'll either go audit a site,
Uh huh.
maybe a high enrolling site, or maybe not. Maybe they start with a just a random site and they like, oh, we're seeing some issues here,
So
inadequate monitoring. Let's
today's
go to the other
FDA,
site. Yeah.
today's FDA is not just randomly going.
Mm,
Today's FDA is really, for the most part, saying we do a risk-based analysis.
I
So
see.
what could be the factors in a risk-based analysis? Too many people getting too many patients enrolled. Well, that's a risk then. Suddenly, all these patients have no adverse events. That's a risk. All these patients there, they all have adverse events. Well, that's a risk. Um,
Hmm.
it's a pivotal study, and you're one of three sites, and this drug is going to land up being used as a major disease, like for
Right.
either a rare disease or whatever. Those are all risks that have to be considered. And the FDA has never released a full list of risks they consider or how they weigh them, but there is actually a guidance out there on risk-based monitoring
For the
and
FDA. For the
for the
FDA.
FDA. Well, even for sites and sponsors to
Well,
follow.
industry adopts it, but the FDA puts
Correct.
out the guidelines.
So hold on. Maybe we should draw that distinction. Guidances, for the most part, are intended for industry.
Correct. Yeah.
On the other hand, there's something called MAPS, Manual of Administrative Procedures. Those are intended for the FDA itself.
Gotcha.
So if you want to know what the FDA allows its people to do, read the MAPS. It's their list that they have to sort of follow. So
Is there
you'll see
any
a mirror.
alpha? Is there any alpha here for investors and reading
Sure,
maps?
sure. Reading the maps is always good because if the FDA comes in and says, I'm making up a thing, ask for patient information to evaluate whether a disease this patient is being appropriately consented.
Hmm.
Look back at the maps and go, I'm sorry, does how do you get past the HIPAA portion of this? Because your maps doesn't have anything in there.
I see. And that something like as seemingly insignificant as that can derail a study, a PDUFA.
It could derail the FDA in that case.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
okay. But
the
what are things that like can derail either or like jeopardize the study data, like from these 483s? Like if the
so
FDA issues a 483 in a pivotal study,
yeah,
is that almost a guarantee the drug won't get approved that go round
no,
or no?
no, because think about it. So again, you and I had this discussion. I want to say last week
On the PDUFAs, yeah.
on the PDUFAs, and part of that you're building studies. So they say you need only two double-blinded, placebo-controlled, multi-center, multinational trials to support it. But the fact is, at a practical level, it lands up being about 75 studies or so on average, which
Wow.
means, yeah,
Per drug?
per drug. Um, so
No.
you're
What do you mean?
uh,
75 studies to get one drug approved?
how many? I'm literally doing a Google search right
You're
now. How many
talking about
studies
preclinical.
does it take to get a drug approved?
I mean, some of these things I'm looking at go with like one study if it's ultra rare.
No, that's just the one study. That's the pivotal study. That's not the only study. That's the difference.
Well, there was two
People
of them. This
people
one was a phase
confuse.
one, phase 1/2/3. I just looked at one.
Well, that's those are your phases. That's not the number of studies themselves.
Right, but it's all one. Phase one. The study itself was called this is a phase 1/2/3.
Right. So that's an adapt. It might be an adaptive study.
Okay. Yeah, it's an ultra rare disease for
Right. So that's just an adaptive study. That doesn't speak to the number of studies. How many actual studies? Let me see if I can find it.
that sounds way too high.
Yeah. Yeah, so 2020 data, a study on 2020 approvals found 49 drugs were supported by 75 pivotal trials, which is 1.5 per drug. I'd have to do some deeper.
Yeah, there's no way, man. I mean, I'd be a
That's the number I'd
billionaire
heard,
as a
but
site owner. We'd be trillionaires. there's not,
you might
there's
you might
barely
be.
enough sites to support the
Well,
current.
hold on. I no, but you're seeing them. For example, I'm talking about phase fours.
Oh, sure, the post-marketing stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and you're also talking about
Because those are like conditional approvals, right? Like, hey, we'll
yeah,
approve you,
sure,
but you got to
correct,
do.
correct.
And then in the
REMS,
past, they weren't really held accountable too much.
right, right.
That was the criticism.
So the number of studies that go into a single drug is quite a bit. So, for example, someone says that, you know what, it's a CYP3A4 enzyme system problem, so it interacts with another product. Well, the FDA will say, do a study, tell me what that data looks like,
Mhm.
because I expect that your person takes Tegretol, takes carbamazepine, and your drug seems to interfere with that system.
Mm.
What should I expect if this is a
And
seizure medication?
in your last study, maybe you excluded those on purpose.
Correct.
You're not going to get
Correct.
that past us.
Or you did include them, and that's why we saw the signal, and that's why we want you to do an additional study.
And they could say this at the last minute, like just
Absolutely. Yeah.
no, this is not even 483 related. This is just study design. Isn't the
Oh,
FDA like we
Helen.
talked about that?
Helen has an
Oh
interesting
shoot, I
point.
totally forgot about the comments. My bad. Well, we didn't have that many anyways.
Yeah.
When you're talking rare diseases, that's a whole different ball game. I've worked on a couple rare diseases where a single
Well, it
study
may
of
be
less than
used, but
one.
is that the only one? I'd be surprised, Helen, if it was the only one.
They would usually have one more. ChatGPT, which is a reliable source. Thank you, Olu, says approximately 20 to 100 studies. I think they're counting like the preclinical, which now the AI is gonna maybe shorten that. Point is though, at these pivotal phases, it's like two, maybe three that they're actually looking at. That's like quote unquote important.
So pivotal studies are different.
Yeah,
Pivotal, you only need the two, like we said. In rare diseases, as Helen
right.
pointed out, you can have one.
You only have
But
one.
that's
Yeah,
just a pivotal one. There
right.
are supporting studies that go along with it.
But I think okay, so I think the point of this live stream and kind of like is not only to explain what could go wrong that people are maybe not looking at, but also like how the FDA can change its mind, and maybe that's another topic. But the FDA can and has been, especially recently, pre-study design process. Like, hey, we're gonna submit. Sponsor says we're gonna do this. These are the endpoints. This is the patient population. FDA basically says, okay, that's fine. And then when
Look,
it
look
comes
at
to
Owen's
PDUFA,
breakdown from the very trustworthy ChatGPT. I can tell
this
you
has so
that.
many dashes and dots. Like we know it has AI written all over it. But like we'll get to it. But the FDA will then say, hey, you know what? We actually want this now too.
Yeah,
Like at the last minute.
yeah, because the data says that there's a risk there.
And they may not in defense of the FDA, they may not have anticipated that until they actually looked at the data during the PDUFA process, right?
Usually, I mean, for
Because
that to have
you're not
happened in the
doing
PDUFA
rolling
process,
reviews unless it's like a fast track or
yeah, yeah. Generally speaking,
right.
that's true. Generally speaking, that's true. Yeah.
Okay, let's get to this AI slop. A simple breakdown: 15 to 25 studies, preclinical, phase 1 through 3, 10 to 15. That must include like the extension studies and all that stuff too. But yeah, okay. Supporting special studies PK. I can see
I thought it
that.
was 75, but 40, fine. Maybe
I
there's
think they're dropping this though. Like this FDA is like gung ho on slashing that number in half.
questions. Do you want those that number slash? That's my
I don't know.
question
I
to
mean, I'm
you.
a site owner, so no.
No,
But
but
then
let's ignore site owner. As a patient, do you want those studies slashed?
yeah,
You do?
yeah. I want to try things faster, you know.
So you'll take the risk.
We want safety. Like I don't I think
You
most
can't have
people
safety if you don't have the studies.
I think most people would take a benchmark established like what's considered safe. And then efficacy is like everyone's going to be different anyways.
No, no, no. But safety is it's relative risk. So safety for cancer is different
I
for.
think if you poll most people, they would say yes, faster, better, cheaper.
I would argue the. That's interesting. I
You would
would not
say
have gone that
slower,
way.
more expensive, and worse.
No, 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 no,
We know
no,
because
no,
you're an
no.
attorney. Like,
No, but I'm going the other way. I'm
uh,
going. When do people come to me? People come to me going, "I got hurt."
people come to you like, "Hey, dude, we got a FDA inspection coming up."
Yeah, but it's as a we see two different versions of this, right? You're a businessman, so you see opportunity. I'm a lawyer, so I see people going, "I got hurt." And my perspective is how do we prevent people getting hurt?
Hurt and how? Like patients? You mean?
Patient subjects, anything. It could also
And
be
when you say hurt, you mean sponsor?
no, I mean patients getting physically harmed. So there's a balance.
Well, nobody wants that, but
So
I mean
the
that's possible in research too. Like, you do more studies, chances are more patients gonna get harmed in those
no, you
trials too.
always have fewer patients getting harmed, right? Because if you do more studies,
No,
you're
no,
doing
but
it
in the
over.
study itself, you have the risk of
Sure, but that's why you do the study to identify that harm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Helen was talking about
Helen
pivotal
is
studies.
happy Monday, happy New Year to Helen and Oluwatosin. Oh my, OMG! But we're missing the forest from the trees, man.
How
Like
so?
483s, they're
First
serious
principles,
stuff.
Dan. First principles.
First
I don't know what that
principle
means
is
here.
a 483 can come out of left field and derail the entire study. Like FDA
Why?
goes to inspect the site.
Yeah.
The site shows that they made a lot of deviations, inadequate monitoring. Then they go to
Mhm.
another site, they see the same things.
Yeah.
At what point does the FDA tell the sponsor, hey, you're going to need another study? We're sorry, but this is not working out. Like your
So
oversight is not adequate.
so a couple of different things. So the first question is why are you having problems? So two sites are two sites. But if you're seeing two sites that are showing a failure to follow the protocol, maybe a protocol itself needs some help. If they're showing that they're not reporting adverse events, is this a problem with the site? Probably is in that scenario. Is it a problem with training? Is it a problem with the protocol not identifying what the reportable adverse events are?
Hmm.
Like, where is this coming from? Is going to become a much bigger deal. So, um, as an investor, because that's how we started this original perspective. As an investor, the first question I'm going to ask is, who is being audited? How important were they? Why were they chosen? If we know all of those questions without violating some of the confidential provisions that sent Martha Stewart to jail,
Mm.
um, if it's publicly known information, in that situation, by the way, the FDA has been going. Sorry, the SEC has been going after companies for failure to report FDA results. So that's a whole thing that's happening
So you're
separately as well.
supposed to, if you, so as a real world story, if you are a sponsor that's publicly traded and one of your sites gets audited by the FDA, you're supposed to release that,
Is it material? Is it material? Is the question. So that
right?
becomes a
Which
harder
is
question.
subjective. It becomes subjective at that
It's all
point,
subjective.
right?
So one site, maybe not, unless they found some really big issues. On the other hand,
But what's
15
really
sites.
big, it's like you could
Well,
just ask this forever.
well, your largest enrolling site that probably had 10% of your data. Yeah, that's a pretty big issue.
Okay, what about your third largest enrolling site with like 3%? That's where it gets like, like this is where sponsors don't know what the fuck they're doing, so they end up
Yeah,
not posting anything. And I
right.
think
But
they're all
that
playing prisoner's
and they get
dilemma,
sued by investors.
but they're all in the prisoner's dilemma doing the same thing. Like I'm gonna watch what our competitors do. If they're not releasing we know their
No,
sites are getting audited.
that's
We're
not
not gonna
enough.
do that either.
And that's why you have SEC lawyers who look at this stuff. I've worked with them. It's kind of fun.
They're ambulance
They're
chasers.
terrified. Was that?
They're ambulance chasers, basically.
I mean, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Those are
How
class
do they
actions.
even know? How would they
Which part?
know? How
That
does the SEC know who to go after? Like if they're not seeing the warning letters.
no, the private lawyers are the ones who are kind of going. Well, I saw this study. I saw this investigator being cited. He had an impact on your study. You didn't tell us. We're going to sue you. SEC goes, oh, these guys are suing. Turns out that there was something that may have been material.
Hmm.
I'm going to do a little bit of digging now.
But that first lawyer, how do they know?
You'll just look at a warning letter.
Okay, so back to the warning letters. First
Yeah,
principles.
first.
So the warning letters get published.
I genuinely don't know what first principles means. I
Somebody
feel like
look
you make it up each
somebody use
time.
one of your AIs and let us know, please, like the actual definition. We'll put
And
some more
also look at
AI
what's the
stuff
other
on
one
there.
you used.
No, it was just that one. First
No.
principle.
There was another one. There was another one. There was first
Oh,
principle.
platonic ideal.
Yeah, platonic ideal.
No, that one is you need a 5-hour podcast, bro. There's books on that.
Uh, yeah, there's
There's
books on
books.
483s as well. That's not
Well,
stopped
yeah,
yet.
those are boring as fuck. Here, this one. The construction of
You
social
realize I
reality.
can't read that now. You just have a bunch of naked women on there.
True. Can you read it maybe
No,
upside
it's
down?
flipped.
I don't know, man. It's not ideal. Somebody put that in there. Okay, so it boils down to whether you're a site and Carla Veranavas, who came on last week to talk about the Miami. I don't know if you saw her on the
I didn't.
pod. That one got a lot of views because she's down in the trenches in Miami right now. She knows a lot of the characters involved. And so she came on. She's the beat reporter for Guru Nation from Miami. She
The
came
beat.
on. She's the Guru Nation Miami beat reporter. She came on and
Is
told
she
us
getting a reporter's pass to SOS?
she's gonna be on your panel with you. I'm gonna introduce you
Oh,
guys. Yeah.
wow.
She's a SWAT team monitor that gets sent in for rescue cleanup stuff. So she's in Miami. Imagine the shit she's seen. Okay, this
Here's the question: if you're in Miami, I
as a
don't know how you
SWAT
compare to a good
monitor.
site.
No.
So
She's
hard.
a independent contractor SWAT. Like you only call her in when there's an issue.
It's only issues though in Miami. I feel like Miami's got some
Exactly.
great sites, but damn,
In Miami. That's who she is. And so she came on and talked about exactly what was going on over there and all that stuff. So, I forgot what my point was, but somebody's gonna put up platonic ideals. I totally forgot what my point was. But you're gonna be on the panel with her.
I'm excited. I think that's
483
gonna be
is
fun.
okay. First principles. Oh yes, I remember. She says, and you're saying the same thing without knowing each other, which gets my spidey senses tingling when that happens. Study the warning letters. The warning letters are published whenever they are. You just hit refresh, set up one of your AI systems to alert you when a new one is posted, and study those. If you're a research site, you know what the FDA is currently looking at. I would say if you're an investor, have an alert for warning letters. Doesn't matter
How would that
what
help
stock
you?
you're invested in.
How would that help you?
For the site, it's easier to understand because
No,
you
not
get.
for sight. I mean, if you're an investor.
I think for an investor, a lot of it will be filler, but like there will be some where you're like, oh wow, I didn't consider if this happens like for the company I'm invested in. Let me see how they're handling this stuff, or
So,
maybe
so
they're
let's
going to
say.
ask the CEO at the next quarterly call questions related to, hey, a competitor just got a one of their sites had a 483. How are you guys doing to mitigate this particular thing? And then
Well,
Helen says she's one of those SWOT
she's a
monitors.
SWOT monitor, but I don't know why the female part is that. And I'm genuinely asking, is that relevant?
I've been one of those SWOT monitors, shaking my head, female.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know.
Like, are
Helen,
they rare or something? Maybe it is. I don't know.
I would have just glossed over the emoji, but Darshan honed right in on it. So we need a explanation here. But there's my answer for why investors should be. Dude, these investors look through, they read the tea leaves of everything. The ones that are good, they read everything. So here's another thing they're probably not reading that might have some benefit. One out of every 20 letters might be something like a potential threat, blind
Mm-hmm.
spot.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest enemy of an investor who does due diligence on a stock is the blind spots. Like, what are you not seeing? And I think these warning letters kind of could show you those things. That's my
No,
thesis.
no, I think that's fair.
It's better than going on a message board and talking shit. Half the time, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's fair. Message boards are full of shit. That's what Reddit is. That's
Mhm.
why the drama on Reddit is amazing. Um,
So you don't
the drama
agree?
on Twitter is amazing as well. What?
You don't agree with the warning letter? Like everyone should be reading these things.
I mean, I think that as someone who does read them, I I used to love the previous version of the FDA where there was only so much you could read. I find it more complicated with the deluge of information that's coming right now.
Hmm.
Even I, as someone who's in this industry, I'm going, there's no way I can read this much information.
Right, but this is where the AIs come in. Like,
Yeah, but the AIs don't do a really good job summarizing the concerns because you're really looking for context, and AIs are not good at context.
you get three of them against each other. They are.
Not in my
I haven't done this as far as warning letters. I might start doing it. So you get Claude Grok because I don't like ChatGPT. Claude Grok and Gemini.
Mhm.
Put them up three tabs next to each other.
Yeah.
Upload the warning letters to all of them. What do you see as
My concern is not that, but let's
Hmm.
say there are 50 warning letters. And like in the case of the advertising stuff, they put out, we used to have maybe two, three, and you'd read them and you'd go, okay, what does this actually mean? What are the implications of this? How do you analyze them? I think we're at 200. Like, I don't know what to do with 200. Like,
well, upload them?
I'm not even sure that, but I'm not, in the end, what I've learned with AI is you need to double check all of it because right now the data is just not good enough to trust. Which
Well,
means that
yeah,
I don't
that's
know
why you have
extreme,
three different ones to kind
but
of.
even then, that's still depending on the AI to check the AI. And I'm going, that's not enough for me.
No, no, they each come up with their own
I know.
independent like
I know
things,
what you
and then
mean.
you say this one said this, that one said that, and then when they're like, "Oh,
William
good to
disagrees
know,"
with me, and I get why people do that. I just
look
don't.
it.
I don't
Nah,
trust it.
Dan has a point. William Blanks, the distinguished William Blanks. Look at that suit, man. Thank
Yeah,
you.
if William seems like he's a healthcare professional, so I'm gonna go with his healthcare professional perspective.
Oh yeah, he's got a stethoscope on his
Got a
neck or
stethoscope
something.
on there.
Look at
So,
you go, man. We gotta
so,
get another physical exam going on.
so my point is, I wouldn't trust an AI to do a medical analysis. I've used them, even for myself. I've used them,
No, no, but
but
they're
in the end,
reading
I'm still
warning
gonna go
letters. They're
talk to.
reading warning letters,
No, no, I
though.
know. I'm trying to do a comparison.
Ah, okay.
What I'm trying to say is that a AI can give you a quick and dirty summary, But in the end, if you truly want to understand it, you need to talk to a professional because they
Right,
know what.
right, right. But in a world of like retail investors where everyone's just talking shit on boards,
Mhm.
like just doing a little something, even if you get 80% of the answer,
But you might be
it's like
focusing on the wrong 80%. That's been my experience so
sure, but
far.
it's still like supplemental information. It's not like the core to your investment thesis. It's just like showing you potential blind spots
Okay,
that may never happen.
sure.
Uh, SWAT team, look at this. We've got connections happening. This is the beauty, Darshan. You and I, we're just here. We're really here. Like, yeah, we're creating content, but we're really here to connect other people.
It's all
And
about
we're just a
connection.
conduit of other people connecting. So
Speaking
they'll
of,
be connecting ASAP. See, we need more SWAT team. I have a prediction. My article on Saturday is going to shake the industry. Shake the industry. I don't
but
know.
will shake the industry.
Probably not. But check it out.
We're gonna call it though.
Did you know the new trend for CROs?
You're gonna have to be more specific.
I know. I'm building it up. I'm
No,
just trying to get you to say no.
no, no. I don't know what the trend is. Dan, tell me what is the trend?
It's a knock knock joke, man. Come on. All right. The trend, Darshan, is for the longest time, having experience monitoring of 5 years or more was a plus.
Uh huh.
Now that's a liability.
Whoa.
They want,
Whoa.
you know what the Goldilocks zone is? 2 to 3 years, no more. There's recruiters on LinkedIn posting no more than 2 to 3 years of monitoring experience.
That sounds like a terrible idea.
Terrible. So that fact, combined with the fact of increasing inadequate monitoring findings,
Mm.
is going to create a lot of demand for Olu, Helen, and Carla, and potentially a lot of surprise
Well, it's gonna create a lot of demand from me, which I'm happy
for
about.
you, of course, for you, man. Maybe for me, but it's going to cause a lot of potential nightmares for retail investors. I
Yeah.
predict because they don't know what the fuck this stuff is. Most don't even know what a CRO is.
Well, that's a bit of a problem, isn't it?
Well,
It's-
I don't actually know how much alpha you get by knowing which one because they're all commoditized. And you're not going to know the monitors.
All you got to do is go to first principles,
Read the warning letter.
evaluate. What was the other one?
Platonic ideal.
Yeah, you got to look at the platonic ideal.
Well, yeah. I mean, life is all about
Okay,
ideals, no? We're just
okay,
striving to be.
I gotta jump.
We didn't cover anything of 483s.
Well,
Hard
that's
stop,
because
Kulkarni.
hard stop. This is not a hard stop. This was an hour.
Okay, so the three outcomes of a FDA audit are no findings, right? Which
Mhm.
does not mean
And,
there's no 483
and
there.
NAI, no findings, no
NAI.
action indicated.
So that's a different form, right? That's not form 483. No
No,
action
it's a different
indicated.
form
Just
altogether.
okay. Then there's a 483, and then there's a 483 warning letter.
You could have a lot more than that. So you can get into yeah, I do a whole thing on like 12 different impacts.
12 different. Fucking A, man. We got 12 different, and you gotta go.
That's what happens.
Hard
That's
stop,
why they
Coach
keep
Carney.
coming back
Man,
to the
what
Guru
a fucking
Nation.
cliffhanger. All right. So the next time you're on, the 12, write this down, please, man. Let's do this. The 12, what do you call them? Platonic ideals?
No, definitely not Pataka ideals.
12 FDA
12
warning
impacts
letter
of
findings.
yeah, 12 no, not 12 findings, 12 different impacts of um
Okay.
non-compliant sites.
12 FDA warning letter impacts.
There you go.
Dude, okay. I'll let you off the hook because your heart stopped Kulkarni. You gotta go. Listen, everyone go follow him right now. Everyone go follow Helen. Everyone go follow Olu. Everyone, you can't follow William. He's on YouTube. And then everyone else that was on here, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Like, subscribe, comment, share. Heart stop Kulkarni in full effect. Bye bye.
Bye.